Entrepreneurs run businesses. What exactly does that entail? And how do we run them well? Andrew Frazier is here to tell us.
This is the Economics for Business podcast. We are here to help all businesses become champions for customers and value, improving lives with preferred and innovative products and services. We offer you the knowledge and tools to make your entrepreneurial journey a successful one. Now, here's your host, Hunter Hastings.
Hi, Hunter Hastings here. At Economics for Business, we're not fans of the term small business. It seems pejorative somehow. It certainly reveals a bias in the establishment view of business. There's a size bias. Most attention is focused on the big commercial firms that make up the big stock indexes. In the US, depending on how you count, they represent about 0.002% of businesses. But they get a lot more than 0.002% of the attention. Then there are high-visibility startups and VC-funded businesses that claim to be gazelles and aim to be unicorns, and are aiming for IPOs or investment bank brokered acquisition. Call the attention they get a creation bias or early-stage bias. But in between and representing up to 99% of businesses is what has been called the middle class of business, the backbone of the economy, of jobs and production. And the standout attribute of these businesses is not size or an unsustainably rapid pace of growth, it's durability and duration. These are businesses that don't consume capital, but build it up patiently. They grow, even if not as fast as the gazelles and unicorns, and they do so by carefully matching outflows to inflows, managing real cash flow as a business driver, not a financially engineered mathematical function like EBITDA. They change, of course, all the time, in response to market changes and data changes and consumer taste changes. They take risk, but not unaffordable risk. Just as the middle class of the American population gives society its core strength, so the middle class of business gives the economy and communities their core strength. For businesses to achieve the duration of 15, 20, 25 years of cash flow positive growth, they need to be well managed. It doesn't take an MBA necessarily, and it's not arcane science. It's managerial common sense applied consciously with discipline and rigor. One of the great coaches for the middle class of business is with us today. Andrew Frazier is a business advisor to exactly the kinds of businesses I just described. He does have an MBA from the Stern School of Business at NYU to go with his MIT degree in engineering economics and his CFA certification. His corporate career was in life insurance, where he ascended the corporate ladder to the VP level, managing an $82 billion investment portfolio. He became CEO of the Executive Leadership Council, and he now runs A&J Management and the service he calls Small Business Like a Pro. Andrew Frazier knows business. Andrew, welcome to the Economics for Business podcast.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be on your show.
Good. Well, it's great to have you here, Andrew. We're great fans of what we call entrepreneurial journey stories. And in fact, you're a coach for business owners to make a journey, and you call it from the point where the owner is working 100% in the business to a point where they're working on the business and on its future and on its growth, and they can delegate some daily operations to others. And that's a great journey in and of itself. You do your coaching from a perspective that we respect very much, the value-centric model. You say that small businesses are advantaged in their size, flexibility, and creativity to deliver unique value propositions for customers in the right target market. And that's exactly what we talk about here. So we'll review that a little bit today, but tell people how you got to the position, Andrew, of being such a revered and experienced and sought-after business coach. What's your journey story?
Okay, Hunter, really like many people, it's a long and windy journey. Over the past 10 years, I've had an opportunity to work one-on-one with more than 500 business owners and taught them about business. At the end of the day, my personal journey is really about leadership. I've had very many valuable leadership experiences through employment, through education, and through entrepreneurial experiences and businesses that have really shaped my perspective and knowledge base. It all began in fourth grade back in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home of the Steelers, when my brother and I started a paper route. You know, great experience. And we did that for 5 years and had an opportunity to expand it beyond just papers, but into a snow shoveling business because of our relationships with the customers, and actually had an opportunity to employ some of our friends, which was kind of neat, and, an opportunity to grow our business. After high school, I attended MIT and graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering, going from there to being a Navy Supply Corps officer, where I ran the business functions of a ship. Coming out, I was a manager in a private company before going back to get my MBA in finance from NYU. After that, I spent a couple years as a corporate executive, earned my CFA, which is like a CPA for investment managers, and then spent some time as a real estate investor and a leader of a nonprofit organization before leaving to be an adjunct professor of accounting and finance, and finally a business coach, consultant, and trainer, outsourced CFO, author, and recently founded the Small Business Pro University.
So, Andrew, at the beginning of your excellent book, which is called Running Your Small Business Like a Pro, you state that strategies for success in small business are very different from those that make larger businesses successful. So I thought we'd start there. Can you explain that insight of yours?
Yes, definitely. Really, small businesses have limited access to capital, resources, and brand recognition. So as a result, they must compete differently than larger businesses. One, they have to focus on a niche instead of the mass market. And really, the smaller the target market you have, the better. You've got to develop your brand in a way that people can know you, because it's all about them knowing you, liking you, and trusting you, as opposed to a business, which actually gives you an advantage because, it's really hard to know, like, and trust a business as opposed to knowing, liking, and trusting a person. You have to differentiate by being more proactive, creative, and flexible than the competition. And small businesses are able to pivot quicker and easier. And then you got to understand the trends, focus on your strengths, and be prepared to grow. So, although you have different positives and negatives, as a small business, there's many things that you can do by being proactive that put you in an advantageous place.
Yeah, I like that thought of the niche audience and having a narrower audience. It's better to have fewer customers that really know you and trust you. And we say, Andrew, that the other side of that is to develop more empathy with those customers, to really understand them, understand their life and their needs in an emotional kind of a way. Is that true for small businesses? And do you see that in action?
Even more so, because you really have to develop a relationship with your customers and, understand their needs, their wants, their desires, so that you can provide the best product or service to meet their needs.
And then how do you expand from there? So you have this truly intimate knowledge of a few customers, you serve them really well, they love you. How do you expand from there?
Well, the first thing is, referrals are the best opportunity for growing your business, but you have to have customers and be successful with them. But really now, as a small business, you have access to a lot of technology that really magnifies your business to get in front of more potential customers in a more professional and effective way. So, the hard part is you have to continually be marketing at the same time as you're delivering your products and services, which can be a challenge for small business owners.
Yeah. You do say, though, Andrew, that behind the process of growth is mission and vision and purpose, and they sound very big company. A mission, vision, and purpose different from a small business than a big business?
They're the same, but really break it down to its essence. Your mission is really, why does your business exist? Why are you doing this? What are you trying to accomplish? Really your vision is, what do you want your business to look like in the future? It doesn't have to be any more complex than that. And even your core values, you're really talking about how do you make decisions and how do you interact based on them. So, you can be as complex as you want, but at the end of the day, it boils down to those three things.
Yeah. Well, good. And then another part of your book, which was very attractive to us economists, was that you say the process of growing a small business is knowledge and learning. And that's in the theory of economics, we say that entrepreneurship is a knowledge process. You have a great real life phrase, though. You said you can get knowledge and learning by losing money or by planning and preparation. And which one are you going to choose? So tell us about knowledge and learning from the practical standpoint of a small business.
Okay. Well, business can only go as far as the business owner is prepared to take it. And successful business owners generally make good business decisions. But to make good business decisions, it's based on good information and understanding, how to make a good business decision, which is based on knowledge and experience, as well as analysis and research. So, really from the standpoint of learning, if you're making bad decisions, you're going to end up losing money. And, by preparing yourself, planning, preparing, you're going to make better business decisions and be more successful. Of course, every business owner has lost a little bit of money. You wouldn't be one if you didn't. But, that kind of education can get real expensive real fast. So it's important to really work to, run your business, plan it, and make good decisions so that you can grow faster and more successfully.
And one of the pieces of experience that you share in your book, which is fascinating to me, Andrew, is what you call the numbers. So part of planning and preparation is the numbers. And you said often you find that small business owners fear the numbers, and so they don't pay enough attention to them, even simple ones like daily cash outflow and inflow. Tell us some of your experience about that, this fear of the numbers. That sounds kind of counterfactual.
Well, yeah, I've noticed that many small business owners, they really don't have an understanding of their numbers, either because they don't want to know, they don't know how to do it, they're afraid of the math, or whatever other excuse they use. I've met with clients who've been in business 10, 20 years looking for financing, but then they're several years behind in taxes and don't have financial statements. And then when I ask about their sales last year or last month or even last week, they aren't sure and many times need to talk to their external accountant to find out. That really puts them in a bad position to be able to seek financing. So I work with them to help bring their knowledge and bring their financials up to par. I've also met with several clients who have cash flow issues because of their business is growing. And, although your business growth increases profits, which is great, it's also a drag on your cash flow, which increases the likelihood of failure. So without looking at your financials, it's difficult to understand how to prepare for this. Most small businesses aren't doing the key activities of reviewing and understanding their financial statements, utilizing key performance indicators to meet regularly and review, and then developing a budget and creating financial projections, which are really the keys to utilizing your numbers and understanding your numbers so that you can run your business more effectively.
Yeah, and one of the things you point out in your book and a couple of anecdotes was that it takes a while to realize that making an accounting profit is not the same as having positive cash flow. And you need to monitor your cash flow down to a daily basis. So we subscribe to that: cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Is that something you often find people are misunderstanding?
Um, Surprisingly, more often than not, that's how a lot of people manage their business, um, based on cash flow. But only looking at cash flow can skew what your understanding of what's happening. But it's important to always continually look at your cash flow, understand how it's going, and plan for it. Because at the end of the day, if you run out of cash, you run out of business. And um, you know, the goal is to stay in business and be profitable.
Right. So you have a few techniques. You talk about standardized methods and processes. One of the elements I picked out of the book that I loved was you're thinking about goals. You call them SMART goals. That's an acronym, SMART. You might walk us through some elements of that. But tell us about goal setting for small businesses.
Okay. Well, a lot of times you have so many things going on within your business that you have to do that sometimes you forget about planning and doing the things that are important but not urgent. And that's really what goals are. They're very important, but sometimes they're missed. But by having goals and focusing on them, it allows you to move forward and many times move forward even faster and better than you would have. So the SMART goal effect, which is commonly known to include specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based, where the specificness gives you a chance to get clarity around the goal. And that's generally qualitative and quantitative. You have to have it measurable because you can't improve anything that you can't measure. It has to be attainable. So you need to analyze what it'll take to achieve the goal. And then it has to be relevant. Does it contribute to your business strategy and your profitability? And then, you got to achieve it within a certain time. So time bound and have reasonable delivery targets, and ways to gauge your progress. So, really by developing SMART goals, it's a way to plan for your business and it's a way to measure how you're doing and continually make improvements.
So, Andrew, given those set of SMART goals, you say that every business from the outset should have detailed, standardized methods and processes. What, besides the SMART goals, what are the detailed methods and processes that we should be building?
Well, it's important to be able to have consistency. And by, setting out processes and procedures, it allows you to do that. It's also very hard to manage people, but it's very easy to manage systems. So by having a system or process, that helps you to be able to manage more effectively and make sure your business is running the way that you want it to. Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth, really talks about the key to running a successful small business is really about running it like a franchise. So that, the same way a franchise is, has processes, procedures, and clear ways of doing business, you should be working towards that with your small business as well.
A quick note. Did you know that we provide supplemental materials for each podcast? Listening to and understanding the key takeaways from our expert guests helps you think better about building a more beautiful business. Taking direct action and implementing these strategies is when the real work begins. Take a concrete, immediate step to implementing a better business model today by downloading the show notes and business tool we've created for this episode. Visit Mises.org/E4Bpod. That's MISES.org/E, the number 4, the letter B, POD, and click on today's episode. Now, back to our interview.
When I was in the big business world, Andrew, we used to build what we call process maps, which are, every step in the process, every handoff, who's involved, what the output is, what the input is to the next step. Is that what you're advocating, that kind of detailed process mapping or step-by-step outline of activity?
I'm advocating that. Of course, in small business, you have a lot less resources and manpower. So it's a process. And, early on when you're working in your business, you're working and sort of developing them as you go. But to move forward and grow, you have to become a supervisor and a manager. And at those levels, you develop the process and procedures so that you can build your organization and continue to do business the way that you want to do business and in the way that has made your business successful previously.
Yeah. We used to have a thing called the procedures book that captured all of those processes. Do you recommend that small businesses have something like that? They accumulate these processes over time?
I think you do. The keys to really going from working in your business to working on your business is really that's where you develop your processes and procedures and you optimize your business. So that's really what working on your business is. And by doing that, you also increase capacity. So, working in the business, you're working on developing your products, your services, finding the right target market for that. Once you do that, then you should pivot to working on your business, which is really when you're, putting processes and procedures into place, you're optimizing your business plan and your strategy, and then you're building capacity. And then working on the future of your business, you're really developing your strategic growth plan and implementing that.
Well, one of the most important processes, we've mentioned it before, but let's drill in a little deeper, is marketing and indeed brand building. You refer to brand building, which sounds like a very sophisticated big company thing, but you say it's the basics of doing business, delivering unique value to a tightly defined target audience. So business is fundamentally marketing. I think that's what I read from your book. Is that right?
Right. I mean, really, at the end of the day, running a successful business is about developing a product or service that a specific group of people or businesses are willing to pay enough for so that you can cover all the associated expenses and have money left over. At the end of the day, that's what business is. And to do that, really your most important job is S&M, not that S&M, but rather sales and marketing. And that's because without enough profitable sales, your business is doomed. And, marketing is really about planning, orchestrating, and developing a relationship with your target, whereas sales is more transactional in terms of getting people to buy. As a result, the better you market, the easier it is to sell. And eventually you won't have to sell if you market well enough.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight about marketing, this idea of fewer customers but deeper knowledge of them. You can always expand the number of customers, but it's the deep knowledge that is the key. And that's what a lot of people forget about marketing. It's knowledge and empathy with your customer. So I appreciate that in your book. You have a wonderful phrase. I'm almost scared to say it, Andrew, but you're not. So we'll bring it up, which is the ideal is to market your business like a drug dealer. So
yes.
Tell us what you get out of that.
Well, I mean, one of the biggest things that I find is business owners are woefully unprepared in terms of their sales and marketing knowledge. And, this gives a great example of, what it means to market effectively. And so, I'm not advocating being a drug dealer, but there's 3 very important lessons, really marketing 101, that are clearly outlined by the example of marketing like a drug dealer. And the first one is drug dealers don't sell drugs, they only offer them. Second, drug dealers don't overpay for marketing. And third, drug dealers make friends. Really, when you think about it, many business owners go out of their way trying to make people buy their products and services. But when I tell them this, and really you've never seen a drug dealer try to make someone buy drugs. They just offer them and they sell themselves. And really, as a business person, your product and service, if you are able to communicate it effectively to the right person, you don't have to sell it. They're going to be like, that's what I've been looking for, because it's a solution to their problem. And that's really what you should be doing as a business owner. And if that's not happening, then you probably need to rethink what your product and service is, and or what your communication and message is, and who you're communicating it to. So, it's important to just understand that you're not trying to sell to everybody, and you have to sell to the right people, but you can't make them buy it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you can spend a whole lot of money on marketing and not get the results that you need. One of the things you talked about earlier is you have to run your business different than a big business. Big businesses can spend millions on marketing and branding. You don't have money for spend a lot of money on branding. It's really your brand. And, you have to really use what they call guerrilla marketing, or marketing inexpensively or free. And as a small business owner, there's many ways you can do that effectively. And then making friends. Business is all about relationship. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So, making friends. So those are the three key things to being able to market successfully. So if you don't know anything else but those things, you're gonna have a leg up. I recommend learning everything you can, but this is a good start.
Yeah. It's a brilliant analogy here. What runs through my head is you don't see the drug dealers doing a lot of advertising, as you say. They don't have very fancy packaging. They don't have branding. But they do have a network and word of mouth and what we would call, I guess, satisfied customers, and that word gets out. They've also got a little bit of location marketing, I would suspect, as well, which is part of the formulation.
So, yeah.
But so there are tactical tools, though, for marketing, and some of the stories you tell in the book are a good use of that. What do you advise people about Facebook versus Yelp versus Instagram versus email and that kind of thing? Do you have any directions for those, or is it discovery and finding out what works?
It's all about who your target market is. And a lot of people have a misconception about the target market, which, really try to, it's a two-part thing. Your target market's whoever's most likely to buy your product or service. And that's the first part. But the second part that many people forget is that you can afford to market to effectively. So as a small business, you can't market to everybody. So that's where we talk about, having the niche. And one example I used was, I worked with someone who had a business that provided jewelry for women. So, originally her target market was mostly all women. But by doing research, all women is like half the people in the US. So that's 150 million people. She can't market to 150 million people effectively. So, first tightening up the target market. Okay, women of a certain age, a certain income, married or not married, kids or no kids. So that continued to bring it down in New Jersey and New York, as opposed to the US or the world. And then really analyzing. And one of the funniest things we found was most of the people who actually bought from her were men buying it for their significant other. So you have to understand your customers, because then if you go to the right customer, you only have to go to a few of them, and your probability of sale is so much higher. And as a small business, that allows you to be more successful.
Yeah. And the way we phrase that, Andrew, is to say that the first thing to do for a business is choose whom you're going to serve. Choose your customers first. And most people, I think, look at it in the reverse. I choose what I'm going to sell or market, and then I'll find my customers. So I think you're advocating the same thing. Choose who you're going to serve. That's an important first step.
Yes, because at the end of the day, you're really providing for one of their needs, wants, or desires. And that's what your product and service should be in that order.
Yeah. So one of your great phrases is the more you know, the more you grow. So we've talked a little bit about that. If you know your customers and know your market, you're going to grow. As you grow, you're going to need capital and finance to expand your business. And you've got a methodology for that too. It comes under an acronym which you call PRAY, P-R-A-Y. But praying is not what you need. It's a much more systematic approach to finance. So can you walk us through the PRAY acronym and how small businesses approach financing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I look at it as, to access capital, you must pray. And it's a strategy for being able to increase the likelihood and the magnitude of financing that you're going to be able to obtain. So never hurts to pray. Definitely prayer works for many people. But in business financing, it also means to prepare, to get your business and financial affairs in order. Research, understanding the landscape of options and requirements for business financing. A for assemble, putting together the important documentation on a timely basis. It's really interesting how many loans never get processed because all the documentation doesn't get turned in by the business owner. And then yield. Once you have things in, you're going to go through due diligence and other stuff. And you have to be patient. So you need to start the financing process early so that you have time to successfully go through and have the money and time for what you need. So most important thing is to prepare. You talk to any loan officer anywhere. Biggest reason why people don't get financing and really don't deserve to get financing is because they're not prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. So another element of that, which we think is really important, and you just highlighted it, Andrew, is understanding time. That understanding that it's going to take time to get through that process of financing or any process that you're involved with, and therefore early preparation is a key element to success. And so, do you find that there's a misunderstanding of the time things take, the time it takes to get a loan, the time it takes to find the right supplier?
Yeah, I think one thing I always tell business owners, especially new business owners, is everything takes longer and is more expensive than you would expect as a business owner. A lot of times you come in and you're like, okay, I'm going to be selling $1 million in year 2. Usually not that easy. So it takes time to learn, understand your market, build your relationships. So have customers, satisfy them. So, the timing, it's always going to take you longer than you planned and expected, and especially for financing. So, it's important to start early, and that's where you have a plan. If you have a plan, you already know when you think you're going to need financing and for what, and you have a plan of where your business is going, and if you're achieving the plan or not, and how that's going to impact you. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses don't have a plan, and really they're kind of out there just winging it. And you don't want to wing it on your livelihood.
Yeah. Would you agree, Andrew, that sources of financing are becoming more plentiful for small businesses? We talk about not having to go to the bank for a bank loan because there's crowdsourcing, there's angel investing, there's fintech platforms that offer an alternative to banks. Is that true in your experience for businesses, or do we still need to go to the bank manager?
I mean, I think there's more options, but there's also more risk because some of the options are more predatory and can hurt you as opposed to help you. But micro lenders tend to be one of the best options for people. Um, Crowdfunding, depending on the type of business you have, may work, but it also depends on your network. And it's a lot of work to even do. So sometimes it might be easier to just make money with your business and focus on it. So, I'm a
Mhm.
big fan of self financing friends and family. And, as you get up and have some cash flow and you have some uh, profitability and success, that's when you really want to look to potentially get external financing.
Yeah. Yeah, another aspect that comes up when we talk about this, Andrew, is the issue of flexibility. So we said right at the beginning that small businesses are more flexible in the way they can adapt and be agile in the marketplace. But some kinds of financing, especially debt financing, can limit your flexibility. You've got covenants, you've got reporting dates, you've got payback dates, and that kind of thing. How do you manage that balance between retaining flexibility and giving up some of it to someone who's giving you a loan?
Well, there's always a lot of trade offs, especially in small business. And, um, sometimes you need the capital to grow, but you can still be very flexible as a small business in terms of the way you work with your clients. Um, Being able to, provide additional things quickly and easily that they may need, and being able to understand them better so that you can, craft your products and services to even meet their needs better. So, yes, financing can take away some flexibility, but at the end of the day, a lot of small business flexibility is non-financing related. You have to meet the covenants and you have to do a certain amount of business. Um, so it's going to require you to make sure you're doing a certain amount in a period of time, but that's not necessarily going to keep you from being flexible in most situations.
Yeah. Okay. So now with your coaching, I've grown my business. I've got procedures and processes in place. I got some financing. Maybe things are going well. I'm starting to add people. I need to hire some people. And you say that changes the character of the business more than anything else. Tell us about that change and what happens to the business owner when you start hiring people.
Well, hiring people, unfortunately, you can't just hire yourself. So, whoever comes into your organization is going to have an impact on whoever's there. They're going to bring their personality, they're going to bring their work ethic, they're going to bring their um, skills and expertise, they're going to bring their historical work experience. All those things can affect your culture either positively or negatively. And, one of the things I talk to a lot of business owners, especially when they're looking to grow, is you have to manage your culture, which is really, how we do things here. So if you don't create and manage your culture, it's going to create itself. And that's not necessarily a good thing. So, understanding that there is a certain culture that you have to manage it to be able to grow your business without it changing too much. I also, it's important to not hire too many people at the same time because you really want to bring people in and help them to understand the culture, how you do things, so that you have consistency in your business and things are running the way you want them to run.
Yeah, one of our recent guests said that as her business grew, hiring people was the toughest thing to get right. She felt that she did eventually, or at least got better at it. But do you find that there's differential skills, Andrew, in your business owners in hiring people, and can you guide them to improve those skills?
Yes, definitely. I mean, hiring's not easy. And for many business owners, their business might be the first time they've ever hired someone. So usually whenever you do something for the first time, there's a learning curve and you may not do it too well. So there's a few things that you can do that I recommend. Number one is you want to make people go through multiple interviews. You don't just want to hire someone on the spot, because you need to look at them at different points in time. It helps to get different perspectives before you hire someone. It's important to hire slow but fire quick. So you want to make sure you bring the right type of person into your organization, because they can totally impact the culture of your organization in either a positive or negative way. The other piece is, it's not just about hiring someone, it's about bringing someone in the right way. And usually, a lot of business owners say, okay, well, I hired them, they have some skills, they're here, how come they're not doing a good job? And, a lot of times you have to really bring them in, spend some time with them, have a plan to bring them up to speed. And a lot of times maybe it's good to have a buddy, so that they have someone that they can go to a lot easier. But it's really about, having a plan and really taking the time to do that. One of the things they say is you deal with tasks efficiently and you deal with people effectively. So that means you have to deal with everybody in their own way. And, many times it may take longer. It's not as straightforward, but you need to do it that way to get the best results.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you say also the owner has to change their role once you've got people to manage and you're not so much doing it yourself and totally hands-on. Do some people have more difficulty with changing roles like that than others? And again, how do you coach them through that?
Definitely. When you're in business initially, when you're working in your business, you're used to delivering the product and service. You're used to doing everything. But to be able to work on your business, you have to be able to step back. You have to be able to delegate. You have to have employees and really bring on a supervisor, so that, the day-to-day and the week-to-week, you have other people really focused on that, so you can focus on improving the business and planning for the future. But to do that, to focus, to work on your business, you have to use numbers. And like I said before, many small business owners don't use numbers. So, that's the first thing, is you have to transition to being able to analyze your business to figure out what's working, what's not working, how to tweak it, how to improve it, setting up your processes and procedures. So less than 5% of business owners really ever work on their business effectively. And that really stunts their growth. So, one of the facts are, most small businesses never grow above 100,000 in sales. And that's a big reason for that, because the owner doesn't transition from being an employee to being a supervisor to being a manager, and not just being one, but actually doing the job effectively. But it's not easy. If you think about it, many people in their career never make it from being an employee to being a supervisor to being a manager. And that's only half the journey of a business owner, because to work on your business takes different skills, and you really have to be more of an executive and a leader of managers. So it takes a whole different skill, it's a whole different role. And then beyond that, to really become, in the C-suite CEO, you really have to focus on external and be more of a symbol. So each of those things is, a totally different role. Some people are better at some roles than others, but if you don't continue to learn and develop, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to lead it. So if you're not prepared to be a manager, your business is never going to be managed effectively. So, it's really about, developing your skills. And most times, people cannot make that transition without coaching or training or consulting. Um, so, understanding the value of where you are and how to get to the next level is key.
Yeah. That's a heck of a statistic. I'd never heard that before, that only 5% of small businesses get beyond that threshold of $100,000 and get to the next level. It's quite jarring to hear that. Well, let's go to the other end. Andrew, you say every business should have an exit plan. And again, that sounds very Silicon Valley, but I think you're talking about planning ahead, as all of your other elements of planning ahead has to include that when do I stop doing this and how do I pass it on? Is that right? Tell us about the exit plans for small business.
Right. Your business is there to benefit your life. If your business isn't helping and making your life better, then why are you doing it? So, retirement and other things are an important part of life. So you need to build that into your plans. And for many business owners, their business many times is the single most valuable asset that they have. So, while you're running your business, you need to maximize the value of it. Unfortunately, and prepare for succession planning. But most businesses never ever get sold and are actually just closed down. So think about working your whole life in a business and you at the end of it, you can't sell it and you close down. A lot of people have that as part of their retirement plan. I worked with a doctor that I came in to value his business. And, really at the end of the day, his business was worth less than $100,000. But he was expecting to get, over $500,000 for it. So there was a big disconnect. And the reason for that was, he was getting older. So the business started declining. So that decreased the value significantly. And not only that, the business didn't really work without him there because, he was the main service provider. And so really at the end of the day, all he had to sell was a lease, some used furniture, and a list of potential customers, which isn't really worth that much. But had he focused on growing his business, had he, planned, managed the business, brought in additional people, and, focused on growing, his business could have been worth a lot. But that happens to a lot of business owners. They're shocked when they find out how little their business is relative to how much they thought it would be worth.
Yeah, because they've been working in their business instead of on the business, you would say, right?
Correct.
Well, it's time to sum up, Andrew. And I always challenge our guests to do this, and maybe it's impossible, but if you could kind of summarize what you think is the best practice to avoid error, I think the title of your book is perhaps one way: running your small business like a pro. So, what's the secret to being a pro?
Well, at the end of the day, there's really a 3-part solution. One is understanding where you are and having goals for the future. So continually assessing your current situation, envisioning where you want to be, and then developing a plan to get there. The second thing is focusing on your most important job. We talked about spending your time on and increasing your knowledge of both marketing and sales, and then overcoming your greatest fear, learning to collect, assemble, analyze, and utilize quantitative information to make better business decisions.
Well, good. Well, we'll try and sum up that formula. I know you've been kind enough to let us link not only to your book, but some of your blueprint content. So we'll do that. And we we want everybody to be an entrepreneur, Andrew. We think you can improve your life that way, and you can improve the life of others. And I think maybe with your coaching, everybody can be an entrepreneur. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, my goal is to really, help business owners, guide them along the path to creating a sustainable business that can run without them. And, the opportunity to be an entrepreneur, there's nothing better to the right person because you get a chance to really create value, be able to, satisfy people's needs and wants and desires. And you have ability to, make the money that you deserve based on the value you're bringing to the table. So, I encourage entrepreneurship and, dedicated to supporting and helping entrepreneurs be successful.
Good. Well, we appreciate that. We thank you for all you do for entrepreneurs and small business owners, Andrew. And we translate a lot of that as you can feel good being an entrepreneur. There's purpose and meaning in it, but also satisfaction. It's a good way to run your life.
Yes. Thanks again, Hunter, for having me. This has been great.
Economics for Business is a production of the Mises Institute. To explore more content like this, visit Mises.org. And for more from Hunter Hastings, visit hunterhastings.com.